Good morning to you. Hope you are doing well and you got a great night's rest last night. We're in a brand new week. We're in week 48, and today is going to be the 330th day out of 365 days of the year. It is November 25th, and we are going to be reading out of a brand new book today. We're going to be reading out of the book of Daniel. And I have a brief summary of it. In this particular reading, Daniel and his friends are taken into Babylonian captivity during King Nebuchadnezzar's reign. And Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, later named Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, resolved to honor God by refusing the king's food and wine, instead only eating vegetables and water. God grants them wisdom and favor, making them healthier and wiser than the others. And then Nebuchadnezzar has a troubling dream and demands interpretation without revealing the dream itself. Daniel seeks God in prayer, and God reveals the dream and its meaning. Daniel praises God for his wisdom and power. So that is what we will be reading about today. And I always love starting new books. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just jump right in. Daniel, we're going to be reading out of the book of Daniel, like I said, chapter 1, verses 1 through to chapter 2 to verse 23. In the third year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord delivered Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, along with some of the articles from the temple of God. These he carried off to the temple of his God in Babylonia and put in the treasure house of his God. Then the king ordered Ashpenaz, chief of his court officials, to bring in some of the Israelites from the royal family and the nobility, young men without any physical defect, handsome, showing aptitude for every kind of learning, well-informed, quick to understand, and qualified to serve in the king's palace. He was to teach them the language and literature of the Babylonians. The king assigned them a daily amount of food and wine from the king's table. They were to be trained for 3 years, and after that they were to enter the king's service. Among these were some from Judah: Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. The chief official gave them new names. To Daniel, the name Belteshazzar. To Hananiah, Shadrach, and to Mishael, Meshach, and to Azariah, Abednego. But Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine, and he asked the chief official for permission not to defile himself in this way. Now, God had caused the official to show favor and sympathy to Daniel, but the official told Daniel, "I am afraid of my lord, the king, who has assigned your food and drink. Why should he see you looking worse than the other young men your age? The king would then have my head because of you." Daniel then said to the guard, whom the chief official had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, "Please test your servants for 10 days. Give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearance with that of the young men who eat the royal food, and treat your servants in accordance with what you see." So he agreed to this and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier and better nourished than any of the young men who ate the royal food. So the guard took away their choice food and the wine they were to drink and gave them vegetables instead. To these 4 young men, God gave knowledge and understanding of all kinds of literature and learning, and Daniel could understand visions and dreams of all kinds. At the end of the time set by the king to bring them in, the chief official presented them to Nebuchadnezzar. The king talked with them, and he found none equal to Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they entered the king's service. In every matter of wisdom and understanding, about which the king questioned them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters in his whole kingdom. And Daniel remained there until the first year of King Cyrus. In the second year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar had dreams. His mind was troubled and he could not sleep. So the king summoned the magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and astrologers to tell him what he had dreamed. When they came in and stood before the king, he said to them, "I have had a dream that troubles me, and I want to know what it means." Then the astrologers answered the king in Aramaic. "O king, live forever. Tell your servants the dream, and we will interpret it." The king replied to the astrologers, "This is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me what my dream was and interpret it, I will have you cut into pieces and your houses turned into piles of rubble. But if you tell me the dream and explain it, you will receive from me gifts and rewards and great honor. So tell me the dream and interpret it for me." Once more they replied, "Let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will interpret it." Then the king answered, "I am certain that you are trying to gain time because you realize that this is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me the dream, there is just one penalty for you. You have conspired to tell me misleading and wicked things, hoping the situation will change. So then tell me the dream, and I will know that you can interpret it for me." The astrologers answered the king, "There is not a man on earth who can do what the king asks. No king, however great and mighty, has ever asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or astrologer. What the king asks is too difficult. No one can reveal it to the king except the gods, and they do not live among men." This made the king so angry and furious that he ordered the execution of all the wise men of Babylon. So the decree was issued to put the wise men to death, and men were sent to look for Daniel and his friends to put them to death. When Arioch, the commander of the king's guard, had gone out to put to death the wise men of Babylon, Daniel spoke to him with wisdom and tact. He asked the king's officer, "Why did the king issue such a harsh decree?" Arioch then explained the matter to Daniel. At this, Daniel went in to the king and asked for time so that he might interpret the dream for him. Then Daniel returned to his house and explained the matter to his friends Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. He urged them to plead for mercy from the God of heaven concerning this mystery, so that he and his friends might not be executed with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. During the night, the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision. Then Daniel praised the God of heaven and said, "Praise be the name of God forever and ever. Wisdom and power are his. He changes times and seasons. He sets up kings and deposes them. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning. He reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what lies in darkness, and light dwells with him. I thank and praise you, O God of my fathers. You have given me wisdom and power. You have made known to me what we asked of you. You have made known to us the dream of the king." Okay, so now we're going to go into New Testament, and the book we will be reading out of New Testament is going to be 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 8 through chapter 4 to verse 6. And Peter encourages believers to live harmoniously and to avoid retaliation and endure suffering for righteousness' sake. Christians should bless others, even their persecutors, and always be ready to defend their faith with gentleness. Christ's suffering and resurrection brings salvation, and believers are urged to live according to God's will, not human desires, and to embrace suffering as a means of growth in faith. These are some pretty if you know Christians that actually sing his praises during times of distress or, great suffering, um, stick around them, be close to them, because that is exactly what we are instructed. We're not instructed to fall apart and to rely on ourselves. We're instructed to lean on him. Lean not on your own understanding, but on me. And so when you meet Christians that don't complain when they're having troubles, you have met a true Christian. So count yourself blessed. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and start reading. Finally, all of you live in harmony with one another. Be sympathetic. Love as brothers. Be compassionate and humble. Do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult, but with blessing, because to this you were called, so that you may inherit a blessing. For whoever would love life and see good days must keep his tongue from evil and his lips from deceitful speech. He must turn from evil and do good. He must seek peace and pursue it. For the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their prayer. But the face of the Lord is against those who do evil. Who is going to harm you if you are eager to do good? But even if you should suffer for what is right, you are blessed. Do not fear what they fear. Do not be frightened, but in your hearts set apart Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have, but do this with gentleness and respect, keeping a clear conscience, so that those who speak maliciously against your good behavior in Christ may be ashamed of their slander. It is better, if it is God's will, to suffer for doing good than for doing evil. For Christ died for sins once for all, the righteous for the unrighteous, to bring you to God. He was put to death in the body, but made alive by the Spirit, through whom also he went and preached to the spirits in prison, who disobeyed long ago, when God waited patiently in the days of Noah while the ark was being built. In it only a few people, 8 in all, were saved through water. And this water symbolizes baptism that now saves you also. Not the removal of dirt from the body, but the pledge of a good conscience toward God. It saves you by the resurrection of Jesus Christ, who has gone into heaven and is at God's right hand, with angels, authorities, and powers in submission to him. Therefore, since Christ suffered in his body, arm yourselves also with the same attitude, because he who has suffered in his body is done with sin. As a result, he does not live the rest of his earthly life for evil human desires, but rather for the will of God. For you have spent enough time in the past doing what pagans chose to do, living in debauchery, lust, and drunkenness, orgies, carousing, and detestable idolatry. They think it strange that you do not plunge with them into the same flood of dissipation, and they heap abuse on you. But they will have to give account to him who is ready to judge the living and the dead. For this is the reason the gospel was preached even to those who are now dead, so that they might be judged according to men in regard to the body, but live according to God in regard to the spirit. All right. Now we are going to move on to Psalm 119, verses 65 through 80. And the psalmist reflects on God's goodness, even in affliction, and praises his word as a source of wisdom and guidance. The psalmist acknowledges that God's discipline is for his benefit, teaching him to value God's commands above worldly riches. And the psalmist also appeals to God for understanding and comfort, trusting that others will be encouraged by his faithfulness. He prays for his heart to remain blameless and for God's mercy in times of hardship. Do good to your servant according to your word, O Lord. Teach me knowledge and good judgment, for I believe in your commands. Before I was afflicted, I went astray, but now I obey your word. You are good, and what you do is good. Teach me your decrees. Though the arrogant have smeared me with lies, I keep your precepts with all my heart. Their hearts are callous and unfeeling, but I delight in your law. It was good for me to be afflicted so that I might learn your decrees. The law from your mouth is more precious to me than thousands of pieces of silver and gold. Your hands made me and formed me. Give me understanding to learn your commands. May those who fear you rejoice when they see me, for I have put my hope in your word. I know, O Lord, that your laws are righteous, and in faithfulness you have afflicted me. May your unfailing love be my comfort, according to your promise to your servant. Let your compassion come to me that I may live, for your law is my delight. May the arrogant be put to shame for wronging me without cause, but I will meditate on your precepts. May those who fear you turn to me, those who understand your statutes. May my heart be blameless toward your decrees, that I may not be put to shame. And last but not least, we have Proverbs 28, verse 14. And it reads, Blessed is the man who always fears the Lord, but he who hardens his heart falls into trouble. And basically, this verse contrasts the blessedness of those who remain reverent toward God with the dangers of hard-heartedness. A sensitive and humble heart leads to blessings, while stubbornness results in trouble. Okay, guys, that concludes today's reading. Thank you so much for listening to me read God's beautiful word. And to all my subscribers, I just want to give you a genuine, heartfelt thanks for staying with me and listening to me read the Bible. And I'm excited for 2025. It's going to be a good year. I'm not letting the threat of World War III affect me, because it is already written. It is all in God's hands, and whatever is going to happen will happen. But we are to remain faithful and steadfast in his love, and worry and fear is of Satan, not of God. So do not let these wars and rumors of wars rock your foundation. Your foundation is right here in his word. Keep your prayer life alive and stay connected with other believers. Do not let anything cause you to have fear or to worry. It is a waste of time. Pour everything you have into your relationship with Jesus, and you will be just fine. Okay? All right, guys. I will see you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye now.